Hi guys, I'm back. This is now episode 2. So, it's been a while since I've filmed. It's been a really hectic few weeks. I finished my exams on Monday, the 13th, and since then it's just been up and down. I've been running up and down. Yo, guys, my life is so busy. I don't understand how I get so busy so quickly, and I really thought that I would get it done in the time that I had, but unfortunately, things don't always work the way that we want them to. But anyway, if you're new to the channel, welcome. This is Tiama's channel. I didn't have a name for it because, like, what was I going to say? Oh, what was I going to say? I'm not a creative person at all. Like, I can think of things on the spot, but like, yo, I'm not creative. Like, there's some people who can actually like draw things and like make artwork. That's not me. Unfortunately, that's not me. Okay, right now I'm filming at my dad's house. I'm just waiting for, I don't know. Yeah, I'm waiting for my dad to come so that we can go to Rustenburg. You see, when I say Rustenburg, what I mean is go to my grandmother's house. Yeah, go to my grandmother's house. So now we're going to do episode 2. Let me decide. Am I okay? I can still see. So this episode I called it Now I'm Saved. Now what? What's gonna happen? Okay, let's do a quick recap of what we spoke about in the first episode. What was basically happening was that my life was in shambles. So, like, there was just a lot going on, right? And I had no relationship with God despite growing up in a home that believed in God and going to Christian schools and going to church and things like that. I still had no relationship with God. Yeah. And there were a few things that kind of led to me getting into like an almost like depressive state at the end of 2022. My self-esteem was low, school was getting so demanding, and I was really struggling to keep up, and my friendships were not really where I wanted them to be, and things were just not going well between, like, the atmosphere of the friendship circle was just not going well. So yeah, so then I decided to start isolating myself because I didn't feel good enough. There's all these different things happening, and then I'm isolating myself, and it's just making things worse and worse and worse until I met Kate on one of my days where I was eating lunch, and her and a friend, they were together, and when they were together, they kind of like, yeah, they kind of gave me a survey, and in that survey, it kind of like um showed me my relationship with God and where I was standing with God. So I meet Kate, and then her and I start scheduling time to meet once a week, and to go through a book called The One to One. I showed it in the previous episode. Yeah, so it's a discipleship book that goes through like the foundations of the faith. It's done between two people, so there has to be a more mature Christian there, and then someone who's starting out the faith. The reason for that is because, like, the more mature Christian can then I can then answer questions that the younger Christian, or the person who's starting out, can, so that they can answer their questions, and that if there's any confusion, like, that person already has foundations in the faith. It's not so that it's not a situation of the blind leading the blind. Okay, so I gave my life up. I gave my life to Jesus Christ in my room in 2022. I think it was November, December, around that time, right? And she was in Cape Town. I'm in Joburg. And it literally happened over a WhatsApp phone call when I realized that the only thing that gets me into heaven is God's grace, not what I can do, not the law, nothing like that. Only God's grace gets me into heaven. Okay, now let's talk about everything. Since the day I gave my life up to Jesus Christ, things have not been the same. That's the honest truth. Now let's take a deeper dive into how things changed. So that December, there was one thing I prayed about, right? Like I said, my friendship circles, things were just not as I thought they would be. um, and there was a lot of doubts, there was a lot of confusion, and then I prayed about it. And the moment I prayed about it, I literally got my answer. And yeah, that answer was not Yeah, it was not a lot. It wasn't the answer that I expected it to be. And it was basically, I got like, there was a situation that happened and it caused me to question one particular relationship a lot more and consider like what would happen if I stayed friends with this person, what would happen if I didn't stay friends with this person. And there was a lot of like confusion with like that, but I knew that I had to make the decision to end the friendship, to have the friendship end, because at that point now things were just not going well in our friendship, and it was just really hard for me to even call her my friend at that point, right? So there was just no reason for me and her to kind of like continue a friendship at that point. Now, she was my closest friend, and it was a very difficult decision to make. And here's one thing that I want to point out: every single person has their own side of their story, and I have mine, she has her own. um in that we have to respect like what happened, we have to respect the situation. So I can't really go into deep detail about what happened, but I can give you an overview of what happened. Like, I can just say like what I just said about the situation. I can't just go deep into it because she also needs to be honored. This channel is not here to bring dishonor to anyone. We were friends for a reason, and she had her time in my life. She also had, I also had my time in her life. It was just that at that point in time, I just felt like my relationship with her was just so toxic. I couldn't keep the yeah, I couldn't keep the friendship going. So it had to end. And when it ended, like, I kind of accepted that it was going to end with a whole lot of other things. She was basically like, I don't even, I felt like if I ended my friendship with her, a lot of my other friendships would end as well. And at the beginning of 2023, that's how it basically played out. I kind of started isolating myself from everybody else in the group, because if if you know the story, like it from my side, it doesn't look good. Like, I didn't do her rights, it really does not look good, but I had my reasons for doing what I did. And at the time, yes, I do admit, like, I had my own hand in ending, in our friendship ending. That's one thing I want to make very clear. I'm not trying to victimize myself or victimize anyone, but what must be understood was that I had my own reasons for doing what I did. I was not like like I said, at that moment it was very hard to see her as my friend, and out of that I acted. And then, so when I decided how the friendship should end, like, I chose a few people who are okay. These are my ride or dies, and in these people being my ride or dies, like, these are the people who I'm going to explain what actually happened and what the situation was and why I decided to make the decision that I made. And then from that, I kind of like left all of the friendship circles. I kind of felt like there were friendship circle groups. Then I left all the friendship circles. I mean, I left all the friendship circle groups with this particular friend that yeah, with this particular friend. I wanted to give her space, and I just, like, I know, like, at the time I knew how, like, my friendship circle behaved, and I really just did not want to, like, have a situation where, like, now everyone is trying to figure out, like, who's actually telling the truth. I wanted it to be a thing of, the situation happened, let's move on from it. And that's what I ended up doing. I ended up cutting off is not the right word. I just distanced myself from people. Okay. And it was hard. I won't lie, it was hard. Okay. So in January 2023, that happens. I end my friendship with, like, one of my closest friends, guys. It was a hard decision to make. I don't think people don't really see things that way. It was a really hard decision to make. And after that, I started isolating myself, right? Also, in January 2023, I decided to extend my degree. Now, there was just a lot of things going on. Like, there was, like I said, school was getting demanding. I was really struggling to manage the workload. It was only 5 courses. Yes, it was only 5 courses, and I was literally struggling to keep up with that workload. So And then in my third year, it would have been 7 courses in the first semester and then 6 in the second semester. I was not going to be able to do that with like 5 hours already struggling. Like, it was so bad. I don't think people understand how bad it was. I was literally studying for tests the night before. My final eco macroeconomics exam. I literally started studying like at 10 p.m. at night. It was so bad. Time I'm writing, was it 8 a.m. or 12:30? One of those two times we were writing fairly early. I remember I've never had an exam after 12:30. We were writing around those times, and I really started studying for that for that exam. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because like it was just a bad time. Um, and it was just like I actually my mark, God's grace. I don't even wanna lie, guys. God's grace. Man, like the same thing. I started studying for that exam the night before, but my final mark. Jesus is just something so good, just so good. His mercy, honestly. So then I decided to extend my degree. Right, I was like, okay, I need to extend my degree because this is starting to look like I'm going to fail. But then I had already spoken to my parents about it. I had already spoken to my bosses about it. Like, I spoke to everyone that I needed to speak to. I'd done the research behind it. I even restructured my whole degree. I knew by June, by August, second semester, the start of second semester in 2022, I already knew what was going to happen, like that I'm extending, and then I started making the plans to actually extend. By the end of November, I already knew how I was going to structure my degree. I knew everything, but then obviously doubt started creeping into my mind. Right, in January, this is now I'm starting to doubt. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can actually um handle 7 courses in one semester after struggling with 5. Like, there was something that was like, maybe try and push. You can handle 7 courses in one semester. And I was like, there's no way. 5, I was really struggling. Then something else was um, trying to tell me, Hore, okay, you extend your degree. That means you're going to graduate a year after everyone. And I was like, okay, that's not the important thing right now. Whether I graduate now or next year or whenever, it doesn't matter. Then that voice kept telling me, like, imagine how long it's going to take you to finish. It's going to take you 9 years. So a BASI is a 4-year degree. Now I'm extending it to 5, plus PGDA, and then 3 years of articles. It was just like, why are you making it even longer? And then there were just all these words that were just like trying to get to me. And then there was also that whole thing of, people are gonna think that you failed. That's why you're extending. And I'm like, no, that doesn't matter. I don't care about what people think. And then like I kind of felt, yeah, I kind of felt like it was going to, like, my extension. The reason why I decided to stick with it was because there was also this like desire to want to remove myself. I don't know from what, but I just felt like I had to get away from everything. The academics, basically get away from everything that like was making me feel like I wasn't good enough, right? Get away from the academic space, like just take a break from academics, just take a break from like it basically felt like a do-over. And then I call then registration for 2023 starts. Guys, registration is hard enough at UCT, and I don't even understand why. I needed to speak to a course advisor because obviously my a student advisor, my program needs to be approved. I can't just say that I'm taking 5 courses. I'm taking 4 courses this semester. Um, oh, I'm taking 5 courses this semester instead of 7. I can't just say that. I have to substantiate, right? And I have to speak to someone about it. So the registration, I think it opened on Monday, right? Literally, I only got to speak to a course advisor about 2 days before registration. About 2 days before registration closed. You can imagine my stress. I had to speak to a course advisor while I'm traveling to to Cape Town from Johannesburg. It was just a lot. Come on, I'm unpacking my bags, and then this lady, then I call the then me and the student advisor had a call, right? And then she's like, I just want to find out the reasons why you want to extend. And guys, I could hear it in her voice. Not if she wanted to take me, like she wanted to be like, don't do this. And I'm like, I need to do it because I feel like if I don't do it, I'm going to fail. Like, I literally felt like I was going to fail. And then she was like, oh, okay, so I see now you're being proactive instead of reactive. And I'm like, yes. And then she's like, but you need to know that the requirements have changed for you. It will be a little bit different. So everyone who does accounting knows that you have to get a sub minimum average what to like go into like the next accounting. Is it the next? Oh yeah, is it the next accounting courses, or is it into CTA? To go into CTA, I think it's to go into PGDA. Okay, here's the reason why I don't know these things is because I'm very confident in the fact that I can pass that, and even if I don't pass it, it's in the Lord's hands. So, like, she was like, you have such good marks, why would you want to extend? If you extend, like, it's going to make that sub minimum requirement a lot more tricky. And I'm just like, it's okay, I'm very confident that I can make that sub minimum requirement, right? And then she's like, okay, cool, I'll approve it. Okay, so then we spoke a little bit about how, like, the structuring of my degree. She was like, no, don't do this, rather do this. And then I was a little bit annoyed about that. And then, but then I still ended up making those necessary changes to my degree. And okay, I submit my service request. Guys, my service request gets denied. Like, I don't understand. Like, it got denied. And I was like, oh, is this like circumstances telling me again not to extend my degree? What? And then I put it back in, like, I did it again correctly this time. It gets denied again, and I'm like, okay, I don't understand what's going on, and I need this service request to be approved. Then I did it again, the full way, the way that that person wanted it to be done, and then it went through. It was a different course advisor every time. I don't understand that. Like, it was a different student advisor every time. So the one I spoke to wasn't the one approving my service request, which was just making everything just complicated for no reason. But yeah, I ended up extending my degree, and it when it finally happened, I literally felt like I had a chance to breathe. I can do whatever I not whatever I want, but I had time to take part in different activities. For example, go to society events and actually eat the free food, and time to build my relationship with God. Like, that was one of the also another reason why I wanted to extend my degree. If I didn't extend my degree, it would mean automatically that I would not have time to build my relationship with the Lord. And I felt like I had been given a second chance to get this relationship thing with the Lord correct. So I was like, you know what? Okay, let me actually take the risk. And it made everything so much better. The fact that my parents were okay with it, the fact that my mom was okay, the fact that everyone was okay with it, I needed to be okay with it. And that year academically, it was tough, yes, but it was a good year. I don't want to lie. Okay, but we're still gonna. Ooh, was it a good year? Okay, we're still gonna talk about what happened in the rest of the year. But now we're still at the beginning of the year. Okay, now I've decided to extend my degree. I've ended my friendship with my closest friend, and she was one of those friends, guys. Like, she was one of those friends where lose her, lose them all. And I saw this happen, like, literally in front of my eyes. They would go out together, and I wouldn't be invited. I wouldn't even hear about it now, and it would hurt me. And then I remembered, hurry, Anna, they were her friends at the end of the day. And it's not like it wasn't like an intentional thing, Yahore, when we started out being friends. Like, it wasn't an intentional thing that when we started out being friends, Hore, they were going to be her friends. It didn't happen like that. It just so happened that they were closer to her than they were to me. So they ended up becoming her friends. And obviously, I'm not speaking my side of the story. Everyone else is making assumptions about what happened between the two of us, right? And they're going off on her side of the story. And like I said, from her side, it does not look good. Like, it really does not look good. And I take full responsibility for what I did. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to victimize myself, but I take full responsibility for what I did. It doesn't look good. So it like it yeah, I kind of like decided, no, this one's not my friend, this one's not my friend, this one's not my friend. And I'm still cool with these people. Let's just get that straight. I'm still cool with these people. I'm at peace with these people. But the reason why I chose to do what I did was because, like, to isolate myself from everybody else, was because I didn't want to hear like someone asking me or questioning me as a person. That situation, if you look at it through my best friend's eyes, my ex best friend's eyes, it makes you question like the type of person that I am, and or I was at that time. Yeah, the type of person that I am, and a lot of people, the way, like, I could just see. I just saw with a few people where their eyes changed towards me, like their heart just changed towards me. I was not being treated the same. The way I would be told about certain things, like you can tell how a person sees you with the way that they yeah, with the way that they react about certain things towards you. It was just not an image that I wanted to keep. So I was just like, no. Yeah, no. So, yeah. Okay. So now all of this isolation thing is happening. Everything feels like it's crumbling. Like it really feels like everything is crumbling. And I'm feeling so lonely. Like lonely, the loneliest I've ever been. My I have another friend, her name is Ndota, right? Ndota literally lives in Stellenbosch. The only time I get to see her is if I come back home in Midrand. And 6 months without Ndota is very hard. The phone is here, né? But what does the phone help with when you don't see her? Like it was just really hard to navigate that time. Like I really wanted my daughter to be really next to me, but it wasn't like that. My family, all of them, Johannesburg, like it was just like a horrible time. I called my mom one day and I was crying, like I was crying, and then she was like, "Are you okay? Must I talk to Uncle Ban Ban so that they come speak to you?" And I'm like, must I talk to Auntie Ban Ban to also come speak to you and hang out with you just to feel a little bit better? And she did that, right? So there was a time when there was a strike, right? During that weekend of the strikes, right? It was during the weekend, around that time of the strikes, when they were burning dustbins and whatnot. So I ended up going to my uncle's house, and he welcomed me, and I felt so much better. Like after that, it made me feel like I had people around. Um, my aunt, one of my aunts, she ended up taking me out. So when I talk about my uncle and my aunt, I'm talking about these people being my mom's friends. Um, some of them, though, the aunt she met her through another person, and then the uncle she met him through running. So he, like, I ended up going there, and it was just like so nice. They him and his wife, we were together the whole weekend, and it made me feel like everything was going to be okay. My aunt took me out, and we had dinner together, and it was so fun. I made an effort to look cute. It was such a cute time that we had together, and it made me feel a lot better. But these are grown ups. Like they're grown ups. They're not my friends. I can't act like they're my friends. I needed friends. So I prayed to God, and I was like, God, can you please give me friends, because like this is really getting very hard. Like it was getting so hard. I didn't even have anyone to sit with, guys. Like it was so bad. I know that I made a choice to do this, but it was bad. I had no one to sit with. And I would get to lectures early in the morning. Like I would get to lectures even before Leslie Social opens. I'll get to Leslie Social before Leslie Social even opens. Like the lecture theaters even open. So I'd get there at around to 7, and yeah, there were two other people who were there, and they actually ended up being my friends. They Yeah, it made me feel a lot better, and through just like coming to classes and like going to tutorials and being nice and responsive in like tutorials, a lot of people started drawing themselves towards me. There would be people who would just come and they'd be like, "Hi, how are you? Good, thanks." And you, good, thank you. Being nice to the person that I sat next to, and then I'd end up like accumulating friends that way, or sitting like even at DH, sitting with one person that I know, and then making friends with the whole table. Okay. So yeah, it very quickly, my loneliness very quickly dissolved. And in that time, like when I was lonely, like God really taught me to be vulnerable with him. Like I was crying so much, and he would be like, "Tell me how you feel, like just let me know what's going on." And in those moments, like when he knew that like, yo guys, like it's bad, she doesn't even have like words to speak, he would give me images where like um he's hugging me. So it would feel like I would literally be hugged, but I would want a physical hug. um so that was nice. And another thing that he would also do to comfort me, right, it would be like an image. I would also get this image where I'd be on his hand, right? Like standing on his hand, and then like we would hug or we'd talk. It would just be like, I'm not sure if any of you have watched the movie BFG, like the picture of the movie where it's the giant holding the little girl. It would be something like that. I wouldn't see it through my own eyes, but I would see it like another person is looking at us. That's how I would see it. And it was really nice. It felt really good to know that the Lord was there with me the whole time. Okay, let's just go a little bit back because now I've addressed this whole thing of loneliness. Let's just go a little bit back to what happened in January. So I come back to 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 Cape Town, right? And I'm still unpacking. I'm still starting to get ready for school. Okay, now Kate just one day she was just like, oh, okay, so you're back in Cape Town. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, don't you want to come to church? And I'm like, okay, cool. And okay, I'm laughing because it's just a funny one. Okay, so I go to church, right? I decide that I'm going to church. I dress up. She tells me the time of the church. She gives me the location of the church, and I Uber there, right? And I Uber to the wrong location. I get there, and I'm like, this does not look like church. And then I'm like, okay, Kate, can you please help me? Like, bruh, I feel like I'm lost. And then she's like, oh, which Wesley Street did you Uber to? Kanti, I Ubered to the one in Obs instead of the one in City Ball where the church actually is. Now I'm running late. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm late for church. And one thing that I hated growing up was being late for church. Being late for church was just one of the things that I hated so much. And I just didn't like it because I felt there was actually a teacher of mine who once said in primary school, that teacher, she said if you're late for church you're disrespecting God. And that teacher, she was like a very scary woman, guys. Like, she was a very scary woman. And I felt like, oh my gosh, we were late for church. Like, now I'm going to get into trouble for being late for church. And my mom, we we'd walk into church, and you know what my mom does? She takes us right to the front of the church. There are like maybe like four. Well, at the church that I was going to, there would be 5 rows in the front open. At the current church that I go to, that doesn't happen. They even encourage us to move forward, but the 4, 5, maybe even 6, 7 rows are open, right? And my mom would make us go sit in one of those rows, especially row 3. She used to like making us sit there. And the church would be like, there are people sitting on this side, there are people sitting here in the middle, and then there are people sitting here. Then there are also like people sitting on the other side of those wings. She would make us sit in the middle wing. And I hated it. Like, I just hated it. Like, I just felt so much shame and so much condemnation walking past so many people while being late. And we weren't even late like by that much. Like, we'd be late by like 5 minutes, 5, 10 minutes. But the fact that we were late just made everything just worse, you know. Okay, and then okay, so fine, we're late, right? And then I just didn't want that whole thing of like now I'm walking into church and then there are all these eyes on top of me. I didn't want that. So I'm like busy stressing you. I'm late. I'm like, maybe I should tell her that I'll come next week. But then something is telling me, no, you gotta get yourself to that church service. You gotta get yourself to that church service. And I'm like, Kate, how long is the service? And she's like, it's only 1 hour, 30 minutes. Okay. So I finally get to the church. I get there. I think there were people there unwelcoming. I'm not sure. But that made me feel like, okay, I'm at the right place now. Like, it makes such a difference when there are people actually standing there at the door of church, or like on the path leading up to church. It makes you feel like, okay, I'm actually at the right place. And they were so nice. I walk into church. It's dim. And I'm confused. Like, why is it dim? Kanti, that's how they worship. So they worship with like fairy lights and making it dim, right? And there are people with their hands raised, they're singing songs that I don't know, and there are just so many white people. Like, there were so many white people, guys. Like, I was like, what? I'm not used to this. And I was just like, okay, this is weird. But as they were singing, like the songs were moving, like they sounded so beautiful. I think the first 2 3 times I went to that church, I cried during worship because it sounded so beautiful. It sounded angelic, guys. It was so beautiful the way that they were singing. And that's one thing that I liked about the church, the way they sang. And then another thing, okay, then after praise and worship, right? They do announcements. So then they did announcements, and then they call the pastor up to pray. And I'm like, they call the pastor up to come preach, and then they pray for him. And I'm like, that's actually really cool. They pray about everything. They prayed about everything, and I really love the fact that like they prayed about everything. Like I said in the previous video, the thing that I did the most was pray, right? And for me, prayer was very important because it's you communicating with God, it's you talking to God. The fact that before the pastor speaks to us and he prays, it just made it like the whole it made the whole like thing feel like this is the right place to be. So he preaches his story and he preaches in bullet points. Now I don't even know how to explain this bullet point thing. People tend, like what I'm doing now is speaking in paragraphs, right? People just tend to speak like this, and that can be very confusing. It can be very confusing because like what are you actually saying? But he would be like, okay, this is what we're going to talk about, here's the explanation. This is what we're going to talk about, here's the explanation. And I really like that because it made me feel less confused. I'm a person who just doesn't like a lot of words. Don't explain too much to me because you confuse me. And the moment you start rambling, I literally stop listening. It's funny because I talk a lot, but the moment I feel like you're repeating yourself, I just I just cut. I don't know what happens. I just cut. And then at the end of it, I'll end up asking, okay, this is what I got from what you said. Is this what you meant? So he would also do that. The pastor would also do that. Like he would speak, 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 speak. And then at the end, he would ask. And he would like summarize. Okay, cool. So the pastor is not speaking there and he's speaking in bullets, which obviously I like. And then he starts to like, as he's preaching, I can actually hear what he's saying. Like he's saying things that actually make sense. He's not just talking about airy fairy topics. He's talking about things that I can actually understand and things that I can actually apply. For the first time, like I actually had interest in a sermon. We all like being like, oh, that was a great word, that was a great word. But I don't feel like it's a great word if you're not going to apply it. And how he spoke it, he made it applicable. It was a very easy way to, okay, I understand what he's saying. Let me see how I can implement these things that he's talking about in my life. Then, okay, so the church service even ended so quickly. So that church, I felt like it was a really good place for me to be in. It was short. This pastor spoke in bullets. They prayed a lot, and then they also, I forgot one. They prayed a lot. They spoke in bullets. Oh, the praise and worship was nice. I really liked the praise and worship. So then I was like, okay, I need to go back to this church. Then I decide, okay, I'm gonna go back. And then I go back. And then this girl just out of nowhere just walks up to me and she's like, I have a word for you. At the end of the service, she comes to me and she's like, I have a word for you. And I'm like, a word? And she's like, yes, a word. So this was during that time again when I was going through my isolation period and things were just crazy. And I was feeling lonely. And she literally said to me, the Lord said I should tell you that you're walking down a path, right? And on that path there are roses on each side. But you can't see the roses because you keep looking down at the path. And the way I interpret that, and when she told me that message, I started crying, guys. Like, I started crying because it was so accurate. I was only focused on like, what is the next step? What's going to happen tomorrow? Like, I was literally focused on just moving. I wasn't focused on like like the beauty of things. I wasn't taking time to stop and be grateful for the things that were happening in my life. So the way I interpreted that word was like, I like, I don't like flowers. Don't take this as me saying that I like flowers. I don't like flowers, right? But I like the beauty of things, if that makes sense. Like beauty of nature, just the beauty of things. Like I can look at a building and be like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. My favorite, just to put it out there, my favorite building of all time is the UNISA building in Pretoria. Yeah, that's my favorite building. I love driving past there. I love going on the hot train there. I just love that building, right? I don't know what it is, but it's just like, especially like when you're driving almost like under it, like you can see like the trees and all of that. Like I just love that building. So in so I just like finding the beauty in things. For example, I don't even know how to explain. Like, I don't like flowers, but I can admit that they're beautiful. And roses are one of the flowers that like I would actually look at and be like, yeah, this is actually a very beautiful flower, right? Um, and I just I don't know how else to explain it, but like roses are actually like beautiful flowers in a way. So I would find interest in that, and I would like to stop and like smell roses and things like that. If that makes sense, I don't know if that explanation makes sense. What I'm basically trying to say is that I don't like flowers, but I can find the beauty in them, right? So, in that message that that lady had given me, it was basically God trying to tell me, find the be grateful. Stop and be grateful. Just stop and look at things and be grateful for the way things are, you know? Don't focus on where you're going. Focus on what like you're looking at. Also, like if you've ever like been with me, like to run errands or to just walk with me, I will stop and look at things. Like I don't know, I don't know why. I just stop and look at things. Even in my shopping, when I shop, I'm window shopping at the same time. I look at things all the time. I always stop to look at things. Um, I don't know why I do that, but I just do it all the time. I think it's just, yeah, I just like finding the beauty in things. It's cute. I think it's cute. But anyway, so yeah, and it was just like the Lord telling me, Hora, just be grateful for where I've brought you. Let's start working on your gratefulness, right? My gratitude, yeah, my gratitude. Um, and so since I got that word, every night I would sit down and write in a journal and just be like, today I'm grateful for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because like it was a way for me to like get out of this loneliness that I'm feeling and put myself like back inside the world and look at the way things are going. Okay, cool. Now that I've gotten to like I've gone to church and I've been comfortable with going to church, Kate also invites me now to join Connect Group, right? So Connect Group is like an intimate setting, like it's you guys, like a small group, a small number of you guys coming together and then speak about God. And at the time, I didn't understand the significance of Connect Group. Connect Groups are so important, guys. I cannot explain how important they are. My church is small, but it's not small enough for it to focus on the individual. Do you understand? So, like, what I mean is like I can't like if I had a problem and I just went to church alone, no one would know about that problem. You know, I wouldn't really be able to have like a whole community with me. But Connect Group is like a smaller yana group, like a smaller group of people where you can bring those problems to those people and then you guys pray about them and then you guys go through the word together, right? And again, it's a space where there's just so many white people. I know that I'm talking about this white people thing a lot, but you have to understand the home I grew up in. I grew up with my uncles and I grew up with my cousin from Mamelodi, and they were just not on the white people wave. Like they were just not feeling white people, and it's not like they would be mean to them, but they would just like if the circumstance allowed for them not to interact with them, they would choose not to interact with them. And I had all these ideas about white people, like yeah, I kind of still have some of them, and the Lord is like working at like breaking them down. but I had all these ideas. I went in with all these ideas about white people, and it was, yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. Let me not. I don't want. Yeah, I don't want to get racist, but yeah. So it was just a space to talk about my relationship with God and just to hear how other people their relationship with God is, and it made it so relatable. Yes, I'm talking to Kate. We're doing the one-to-one together. We're discipling together, but like it's just me and her. It can very easily turn into a situation like I'm only talking to you about it. You're the only person who knows about it, right? Like even though you're the only one, like even though there's someone else who knows about it, am I crazy for thinking what I'm thinking? I don't know. So like being in a space where there's more people, where there's like reality, like there's more experiences, and it's almost like, okay, my experience is actually more. It's like it can be understood because there's someone else in the group who can understand. Even though like I was speaking to Kate, right? She might not understand. And if she doesn't understand, how would I feel if she doesn't understand? And I can feel from her body language that she doesn't understand. But if I go to Connect Group and I speak about something in Connect Group, there's someone there who could understand. There's more of a chance of someone else understanding there. And that made it a little bit more relatable and more fun. Okay, so with going to Connect Group, it was really like it was giving the sense of like friends, right? And Kate would organize like having a lift, would organize having someone to take me from where I stayed to Connect. um I Yeah, so sometimes I would need transport, so Kate would help me organize that transport, and even she would chip in organizing that transport like sometimes. So it was very nice to see how everyone worked together in that space, to see how, okay, if I needed to get to Connect Group today, I can just ask for help from Kate, and Kate will ask someone in the Connect Group, and that person will be willing to help. Everyone, excuse me, everyone there was just so nice. Everyone was so nice in a way that I can't even explain, and everyone was just so willing to help. um and in that same space, like I started exercising my spiritual gifts. Okay, so with my spiritual gifts, right, some of them showed before like I got even saved, if that makes sense. So I would be able to look at a situation and judge it for what it was, and then be able to tell you the outcome of that situation, and it would happen exactly like that. um or I'd be able to look at a person and then judge like where their heart came from when they did a certain thing, when they did a certain action. It's still like I can still do that even today, but I do it in a much different way, and it's not out of my own strength, right? That gift is called discernment. um so I can like look into your heart almost like, and I can tell like when you said something what you actually meant. So sometimes like when you ask me a question, I can give you a different response to the question that you actually asked, but I'm answering the question that you wanted to actually ask, if that makes sense. So yeah, I started exercising that, right? So I can see basically what's happening in the spirit. I'm still in training with that, and we're still, yeah, God is still baby steps. We're still baby stepping it out. But the first time I discerned in the name of like with the Lord was in Connect, and I was just like, that is so crazy. Like it was just so amazing to see, right? And she like, yeah, and my I spoke to my best friend about exercising the gift. I just spoke about like what happened at Connect, and she was like, actually Doc, I think you have the gift of discernment. And Dota was like, I actually think that you have the gift of discernment. um she, in her like being able to tell that, like I was able to like actually accept it as my gift. I never knew that like there were spiritual gifts to even begin with, and I didn't know like what the spirit, like the discernment thing was, or why I could do certain things, like be able to judge something in the spirit, or like be able to look at a situation and be able to tell the spirit behind it. Like I never knew why I could do that. I just knew that I could do it, and I just rested in knowing that. So That's how I just I thought it was just normal. But then my friend was like, no, doctor was like, no, it's the gift of discernment. And then from there, that's when I started like, okay, I have the gift of discernment. And there were some doubts about it, but I would speak to Kate about it, and it would actually like come out, like it would actually match up like better than worse things. Like that I had the gift of discernment. Kate also has the gift of discernment. She can, yeah, the way we do it is like the way she does it and the way I do it is different. We're gonna talk about like how my spiritual gift like evolved and things like that, but let's just leave that for later, not now. Now church is starting to become more interesting. I'm going a lot more often, and one day I just felt it on my heart to read the Bible. Like something was just like, you know what, just open the Bible and just read and see what is actually going on there. So then I opened the book of James and I read the scripture that we had done at church, and it was very simple to read. For the first time, the Bible was actually very simple to read, and I could actually understand what was going on. And it was enjoyable. I thought the Bible was boring. Like, I really thought the Bible was boring until that day, and I found out that, yo, actually, the Bible is nice. And yeah, it was just like so nice. Like, it was just, I don't know how to explain it. I could actually understand what I was reading, and it felt enjoyable. Yeah. So then, as I'm reading the Bible, as I'm like, I was going through it very slowly. Let's just, yeah, highlight that. And I was going through it very slowly. So I'm reading the Bible, I'm going to church more often, and I'm going to connect. Okay. And I'm enjoying like the way things are going. I'm not seeing like a change that I have to make. Then one day, just randomly, I'm cleaning my room. I even remember what I was wearing. Like I remember what I was doing. I hear a voice and I was listening to a song, right? It was one of my favorite songs at the time. And a voice literally said to me, you don't agree with this kind of lifestyle, yet you listen to the music that supports this type of lifestyle. And what that song was basically singing about was basically a casual relationship between two people. Oh, guys, you know, something about casual relationships just makes me so angry. We'll talk about it like when we get to the episode where I speak about my sexual sin. Sorry, we'll talk about like why I don't like casual relationships, why I didn't like them before I got saved, and why I don't like them even now because it's biblical. But anyway, we'll talk about that in the episode where I speak about my sexual immorality and my sexual sin and how I came to conquer that. But for now, yeah. So at that point, like, it's just like I just got into the point where I was just like, I hate men. All men are liars. Um, I don't want to hear a word out of a man. But then I'm listening to a song that talks about casual relationships and like how I don't even know, like she was basically speaking about a very casual relationship where he had no feelings for her and she was so okay with that, and I was like, I'm actually not okay with that. And at that point now, like everything leading up to that point, so we like my relationship with guys was just not cute. I wouldn't have good relations with men. Like it was bad. Like I said, we'll cover that. And something came over me and I was like, you are what you consume. So I decided, hurry, let me just stop listening to that music. And then there's going to be an episode of like why I decided to stop listening to that type of music and how I went through the cleaning of my music. Cause your music taste has to change. If you're listening to it, you agree with what it says, and it shows the type of person that you are. So those are the different types of like identity changes that I went through up until April. Well, basically what was happening with me was that like now I wanted to be like Christian. I wanted to change. Like I really wanted to become different. And I wanted to see where else am I allowing the devil in, and I'm allowing like sin to take over my life, because I was like, there's no way we're gonna mess this thing up. I'm with Jesus, I'm dying with him. So I need like all of the things that are coming out. I need all of the bad things to come out. And I wanted to find out which sins have I engaged in that I need to walk away from, right? So there's this whole thing called Victory Day at church where it's a course where they go through the different sins that you commit in your life before you get saved, right? And some of them were highlighted. Ancestral worship, sexual immorality, all of those things were highlighted, and I repented of them, right? And then I was ready for the next step of my journey, which was getting baptized, right? And then a voice spoke to me that one random night in April, you need to get baptized, that you should get baptized. And I forgot about it. I thought I was going to tell Kate, like, okay, can we set a date to get baptized? Kanti at church, they were organizing that whole thing of getting baptized. So the baptism ended up happening at my pastor's house, and we went into the pool, guys. It was cold that day. It was so cold, but it didn't feel cold, if that makes sense. And the whole thing was nice. I ended up driving to Stellenbosch to fetch Ndota and then bring her to the side and then take her to my baptism, and also another friend of mine. And yeah, this video will end with my baptism video, and it actually even opens, I think it will open with it. I still need to decide how it will work. But yeah, that's how we got from me being saved all the way up to me being baptized. And we're going to speak about what happens after baptism. So when I told Kate that I wanted to get baptized, she ended up sending me all these sermons about baptism and why baptism is so important to fully understand the decision that I'm making. The nice thing about everything that I ended up doing, like between then and my baptism, well, just everything in general, there was always just like this there was always a mixture of understand what you're doing. When I told Kate that I'm doing this, she would make sure that, okay, Tema wants to do this, here are sermons to back things up, and or like words to back up what she's doing, which is something I would recommend you do. So yeah, to know exactly what I was getting into. She even warned me about after you get baptized, you go into like this period of like the desert, just like Jesus went into the desert. She warned me about that, and I was just like, guys, I'm getting baptized. I don't care what anybody says, I'm getting baptized. So I ended up getting baptized on the 21st of May. See you in the next video.
When you get in with your feet, it's not that bad. When you know me, I'm short, guys. Like, so I'm already baptized. And so I don't know what we're gonna do. Must I go down again? No, you go under. You go down. Maybe you can stand still. Say your name and then just turn around. We're gonna baptize the other way because she'll go right under. Okay, hi guys. My name is Tiamo. Yeah, so you can turn around now, and then we're gonna baptize you. Tiamo, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Yes, I do. Then I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.